All right, so let's chat to the DA's Glynis Breitenbach, of course, well-versed in matters prosecutorial, having formerly been with the NPA. Glynis, I want to start with, please, if you could explain this breaking news this evening, this nolle prosequi issue. What exactly does it mean? How does it relate to Jacob Zuma's attempts to bring charges and to prosecute Billy Downer, and what are the avenues left open to him now?
Well, the nolle prosequi certificate is issued by the National Prosecuting Authority, by the National Director, having applied her mind to a decision taken by the Director of Public Prosecutions in KZN, who also declined to prosecute. And what it basically means is that the state has thoroughly applied its mind to the evidence that's available against Mr. Downer, and has decided that there's no criminal case to be made out, there's no reasonable prospect of a successful prosecution, or there's just no case at all. And so they issue a certificate nolle prosequi, which then enables, it closes with some finality the case of the state, and means that the state has no further interest in the matter. And it opens the door for a private prosecution by Mr. Zuma, should he so desire. Private prosecutions are not quite as simple as they sound. They're very expensive. They require somebody to prosecute, somebody knowledgeable to prosecute, which may not be quite so easy to find. And large amounts of cash have to be paid up front to guarantee the expenses that will be incurred in court time, court officials' time, judges or magistrates' time, etc. So it's not a simple matter. He has 3 months to initiate it, and if he doesn't, well, then that ship sails. And of course, it also does mean that if he does institute a private prosecution, and somewhere along the line it looks like he may be successful, the state can intervene and say, we want to take this back now and do it ourselves.
Right.
So there's an inherent risk in private prosecutions, and as far as I'm aware, there have only been 2 ever done in South Africa.
So it seems that Jacob Zuma's legal team has asked for this certificate, which means they are preparing the way for a private prosecution. The big question, though, is if they go ahead with a private prosecution, will that stop the process that's due to start properly on the 15th of August, which, of course, is the arms deal trial?
Well, it shouldn't. There's no reason why Mr. Downer shouldn't proceed. He's the logical person to prosecute this matter. He's the one person alive who has the greatest knowledge of the matter. He's been working on it for most of his adult life. And that is the reason why such a dust cloud is being kicked up by Mr. Zuma. He doesn't want he doesn't want Downer to prosecute him. He's afraid of him. Downer is an outstanding prosecutor. He's extremely competent. He's a very good lawyer. And of course, Zuma would love it if somebody less competent was prosecuting him. And so he will do whatever it takes, including threaten a private prosecution, which, again, is not so easy to do, just in order to keep Downer off the case. Not because he honestly believes that there's anything that prevents Downer from prosecuting him. He just, he would prefer to have somebody else, which is quite understandable, bearing in mind that Downer is very competent. So there's nothing that's going to prevent Downer from prosecuting him, no.
Thank you for explaining that so clearly. I want to move on to the issue of the arrest of the 2 Gupta brothers. We know that there's a long road ahead to get them actually extradited to South Africa, and there's many legal hurdles they can put in the way. Something really concerning, though, that our reporter Aviwe Mtila has uncovered. He's been given correspondence between the UAE authorities and the South African authorities, which shows quite clearly that the authorities in Dubai in March asked for fingerprints and photographs of the brothers, and their request was only responded to in May, nearly 3 months later. Is this par for the course, the kind of thing that happens all the time? I mean, we're talking about an incredibly high-profile case, and what Aviwe is showing is that there's been this sort of runaround of non-response. How do you, I mean, obviously you're trusting us that we've done our homework, but our reporters looked into this thoroughly. But is this signalling that the process towards an extradition might be hampered by incompetence?
Well, first of all I've seen is what you showed on the screen.
Yeah.
And I've only just seen it now, and so it's difficult to form a view without having heard the other side of the story. So I can't imagine what the cause of such a delay would be. Obviously, their fingerprints are available. Obviously, their photographs are available. And given the profile of the matter, of course, you would have expected the required information to be sent off immediately, if not sooner. Bearing in mind that this is a high-profile matter, bearing in mind that the Guptas were in South Africa when there was evidence against them that would have been sufficient to detain them, in my view, and yet they were allowed to leave. So to remedy that magnificent faux pas, you would think that the police or the prosecuting authorities would be falling over themselves to ensure that whatever was required in order to arrest and then extradite the Guptas would be done with great alacrity. So in the absence of an explanation, just on the face of the emails, that's very concerning. 3 months is ridiculously long. I cannot think of a justification for it. I will certainly ask for one. You can quite bank on that. Okay. But it's difficult to think of a scenario where that would be justifiable.
I want to speak to you about the process now. We've done a lot on the extradition process, but in terms of what the NPA should be doing now around charges against the Guptas, what they're facing at the moment is linked, to my understanding, to companies in Free State, the Freda Dairy Farm. But it's small fry compared to the Transnet, the Eskom stuff. Should the NPA be moving heaven and earth to now get their cases together on the really big fish? What should they be doing now?
Well, extradition is difficult. It's complicated, and it's really a complex procedure that takes a long time. So the arrest, yes, that's wonderful. It's a great stride forward, and of course it should make everybody very happy that it has taken place. So they're arrested now, 2 of them. The third one, for some reason, is still running around somewhere. But they're now arrested, they're in custody. They can, of course, apply for bail, and they may well be successful. But having arrested them, what happens now is an extradition process that requires a lot of mutual to and froing between the 2 countries, and if it's going to take 3 months for us to respond every time, that could be a very, very long time. And of course, what you extradite for, you have to be extremely careful, because the charge sheet that you extradite upon cannot be changed once they're back here. You can't extradite somebody for shoplifting and then change it to fraud, corruption, money laundering, etc. once they're here, once you have them. You're bound by your agreement to, first of all, the crime that you want to prosecute in South Africa must be a concomitant crime in the country giving the extradition, so in the UAE. And then you're bound by the 4 walls of your charge sheet. You can't just change it to something more serious once you have them.
So you can't. So they can't. The NPA cannot add anything more. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends on. I'm sure they haven't yet supplied a charge sheet. When you do the extradition application, you supply a charge sheet to the court there that here's the extradition, and once you've done that, you're bound by your charge sheet. Then you can't change it. So the NPA is in the invidious position of having to draft a charge sheet that will provide both concomitant offences here and there, and also be sufficiently serious enough for them to extradite and prosecute here and get the desired result, because they will not easily or at all be able to amend the charge sheet to any great degree once they have them back here.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much, Advocate Glynis Breitenbach of the Democratic Alliance. Still to